Yeah, I was not supposed to be there today. Great. Yeah, no. Yeah. Y'all remember, as y'all probably know, Clerks is my favorite comedy movie of all time. I'm a big Clerks fanatic. Like, see, look at this. This is a double feature of both the first two movies. And you see right here, this is my name. My YouTube name, signed on here for Fan Expo of 2022, signed by Brian O'Halloran, Dante himself. And finally, to cap it all off, an actually printed photo of me with Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson from when I went to Fan Expo. So yeah, I'm a big Clerks fanatic. Clerks 1, my favorite comedy movie of all time. Clerks 2, a very good sequel and a worthy close to the series. In fact, it should have been close to the series because I got back from seeing Clerks 3, the movie that should not even be here today. And we're going to get to why. But let's begin. What's the plot of this? Dante, Elias, and Jane, Silent Bob are enlisted by Randall after he has a heart attack to make a movie about the convenience store that started it all. So how was the film made? Well, back in 2006, during press for Clerks 2, Kevin Smith briefly discussed the possibility of a Clerks 3, stating that if there's ever going to be a Clerks 3, it would be somewhere down the road in my 40s or in his 40s or 50s. It would be interesting to check back in on Dante and Randall, but he didn't know about Jane and Bob so much. Because at 45, leaning on a wall in front of a convenience store would be a little sad, according to him. Smith repeated this sentiment on one of the audio commentary tracks on the Clerks 2 DVD. And then in March 2012, Smith expressed interest to produce Clerks 3 as a Broadway play after seeing the Therese Rabbit comedy seminar which starred Alan Rickman, whom Smith previously worked with on Dogma. In December 2012, he released a special Hollywood Babylon episode in which he revealed greater details on his plans for the third film. Smith stated an ongoing audit over residuals from Clerks 2 with the Weinstein Company caused a delay in several key Clerks 3 cast and crew members, including Anderson and Scott Mosier, from coming on board until the audit was resolved. And then Clerks 3 was eventually cancelled in 2017 when Smith announced that one of the four leads, which was Jeff Anderson, opted out of reprising his role despite a complete script. And then Smith doubted the film would ever be made, which is kind of a good thing because Clerks 2 ended the story beautifully. In 2018, Smith suffered a fatal heart attack between one of his comedy shows. This experience inspired him to relaunch Clerks 3's script from scratch, doing away with the original planned storyline. I have no idea what the original planned storyline was. It was probably going to be better than this. Smith later reflected that the original script strayed too far from the original Clerks, and was written by a guy who didn't know a thing about death, he was glad it was never made. Smith later reused the original opening scene, which featured Jane Silent Bob getting arrested, alongside Dante and Randall in the original Clerks III script for Jane Silent Bob Reboot. On October 2019, Smith confirmed on Instagram that Clerks III was happening, and that Jeff Anderson would be reprising his role as Randall. The film then had its world premiere on September 4th, 2022, in Red Bank, New Jersey, before a limited release on September 13th by Lionsgate. And when it comes to the critics, they've given it mixed reviews, obviously, about the kind of same score as Clerks II got, but a lower Metacritic score. Now, as for my reaction, well, I just saw the movie about a few hours ago, and well, like I said, Clerks II is my favorite comedy movie of all time, and Clerks II is a good sequel, and where the Oscar universe should have ended. How is Clerks III? Did it continue that trend? No. I gotta say, this movie was a massive fucking letdown. Like, wow. This movie did not even feel like a comedy at all, and had made the happy ending of Clerks II a joke. Like, how the hell did this happen? Clerks and Clerks II were so edgy and realistic. Those films struck a chord with me when the first time I saw them. It's a fearless reflection of a counterculture consisting of misguided youth and depressed 30-somethings simply trying to get by. They were the only reason Kevin Smith even had a career. He captured something raw and real in Clerks, and everyone went wild for it. Then he did it again with Clerks 2, albeit loaded with more theatrically, more showmanship, more gags, but it leads to the emotional crux of Dante and Randall's confrontation in the jail cell. And just when you think Clerks 2 is all donkey shows and fan service, you get sucker punched with the emotional honesty that made the first Clerks an indie masterpiece. It's still crass, vulgar, offensive, and also deeply personal and honest. Clerks 3 is commendable that it tries to reach for the emotion, but everything that's reported feels off to me. Now when it comes to the performances, Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson do a really good job playing these guys. They both hit depths that I found impressive. O'Halloran has some generally emotional and effective scenes, without which this movie would probably be much worse. But it's not fair for just one actor to try and carry the whole show, especially with so much roughness around it. And just because a movie ends on a downer, that doesn't make every single movie Empire Strikes Back. I cannot in good conscience condone, let alone recommend Clerks 3, which is a devastating disappointment of Jedi proportions, no pun intended. The at first cute and harmless third installment quickly mutates into a banal, uneven, tone-deaf, manipulative, memory-tarnishing, boondoggle, which culminates with an ending so egregious it borders on sacrilege. This movie does start off kind of funny. There's still some times I gotta laugh. The reason why this is not an epic rant is because I still got some laughs in the first bit, but then the movie just randomly turns into a drama. Because, here's another big problem. You fans of Clerks 2 know Rosario Dawson's character Becky and Dante's soon-to-be-born child at the end of the Clerks 2? Well, you want to know what happens? They basically both get an Alien³ pulled on their asses because they are apparently dead since they were killed by a drunk driver. As soon as that was revealed, I was starting to lose hope for this movie. What is the point of casting Dawson if her scenes are just her spirit and her character is dead? I get she's all busy with Star Wars, but then what's the point of making this then? Rosario Dawson was even a part of the advertising and promotion of the film, even pictured standing next to Randall and Dante in the quick stop. So is a little bit of false advertising in those images on social media, since Becky is here only as a spirit who occasionally visits Dante to encourage him. Randall and Dante still own Quick Stop and they are near 50 years old. The movie begins with a downer, because Dante is still mourning the loss of Becky and his unborn child. Much like kind of like the beginning of the sixth Rocky movie, Rocky Balboa, but unlike the Rocky series, we never got a chance to see Dante's husband and father, where at least Rocky Balboa, Rocky still got to be a dad and still got to have a son. So at least his wife died as soon as his son was all grown up and stuff. So even Rocky got a way happier ending than Dante even does in this film. Like, whereas Clerks 2 ends on a hopeful future, Clerks 3 literally begins with death. The scene described above is just depressing enough, but that is far from the only depressing moment in this movie. Like, Randall, you all know the plot. Randall nearly dies in the beginning and has a bit too realistic of a heart attack and questions their mortality and such. Like, really? You gotta do dark shit like this in a Clerks movie? Like, when I watch something like Clerks, I just, want to see actual comedy, where Dante and, Randall usually have their little banters, and I want to see actually funny stuff. I want to see an actual comedy when I watch a Clerks film. I don't want to see some depressing drama about death, or have characters get an Alien³ pulled on them in a comedy film. I really wanted a comedy with heart. Not some heavy drama with a heart attack. I mean, this was based off Kevin Smith's real life heart attack, but you still could have had this at least be a comedy movie. The concept is good as a basis to start, but the script gets stuck within its own depression and nostalgia, and comedy just comes from some rehashed gigs. I really wish they would have made this a comedy with heart. We need more humor even in today's world. Now Kevin Smith has apparently worked some of his recent real life experiences into this, but why not make a new movie about a guy who faces his own mortality? Don't take our beloved comedic characters and make them go through trauma. The acting in drama is kind of good at stuff, but it's just surreal to see two comedy characters crying, being depressed, scared of dying, and it totally burns you out. Those two moments are... I won't spoil anything, but those two moments are not even the end of it at all. It's not that, Clerks 3 feels clean up for today's more sensitive audiences. I mean, it is. It feels way too toned down for a Clerks movie compared to how vulgar the first two were. But if Clerks 2 came out today, everyone would get all butthurt over it. I am not seeking the offensiveness. The dialogue outside of Dante and Randall's more heartful exchanges doesn't have the same bite or wit of the first two films. The lack of a true emotional connection mixed with a painful vein of fanservice makes Clerks 3 feel like it's more desperate. The way it panders to the audience bothers me. From retreated jokes and visual gags to literally recreating scenes from the first film, it all quickly goes from enjoyable meta and nostalgic to slightly frustrating. And now here's one of the biggest problems, is the ending. You want to know how it ends? Well, I'm going to spoil some shit in 3, 2, 1. Dante, when they're trying to film a scene of movies, Dante still keeps going through when he lost Becky, so he gets drunk because he's still grieving the loss of her so much. And want to know how Randall is? Randall doesn't even give a crap and is such an asshole. No, I'm not kidding. Randall was the funniest character in the first two films. They literally made him another Ellen Ripley in this movie and made him such an unlikable asshole this whole time. The only thing Randall ever cares about in this movie is making his movie. He doesn't even care about what Dante's going through at all. Remember that conversation in Clerks 2? He considered him a friend, and it was a very emotional moment. Here, he clearly doesn't give a shit about crap Dante's going through here. And it just makes Dante angry, and Dante goes on a long, angry rant, which was a pretty well-acted rant, I will say, against Randall. Which is pretty reasonable, because Randall often has gotten him in trouble in both the first two films, with the cigarette kid thing in the first film, the donkey show, and stuff. There's an incident where they abandoned their work because some old rival of theirs visited them at movies and made fun of them, and then caused a big line, that big scene with Wanda Sykes in the second one where he accidentally says that racial slur, which he doesn't think, and he thinks he's taking it back. But anyway, back to this. And it leads to Dante also having a heart attack. Like, I understand Kevin Smith wants to say something significant and special to his families regarding to his own near-fatal heart attack, but really, both of the main characters have to suffer a heart attack in the same movie. Seriously? And then Randall gets into the hospital. He shows Dante the finished project of his movie and a laptop right before, and Dante's watching the movie in spirit, which is literally just clips from the first movie, with the spirit of Becky in this afterlife movie theater. And then Dante doesn't want to see the ending because he already trusts the director, so him and Becky finally, oh, trust me, you Clerks fans are going to be very, very pissed off. And even some Rap for Life fans who have subscribed to me, they're going to be so pissed off when they hear this. You want to know what happens? Dante fucking dies. Yep, that's correct. He fucking dies. Wow. They pull an Alien 3 in the beginning, and they pull an Alien 3 at the end of the movie right here. Wow. And the film then ends with Randall burying Dante at a very poignant funeral scene. And this was another... And the very last scene has just Randall running the quick stop with Elias and Jane, Silent Bob. And Randall's sad, and the spirit of Dante literally appearing next to him does not even comfort him and is just working. And the final shot even rehashes the final shot of Clerks 2. Where instead of Smith's mom playing the milk lady who sorts through all the expired milk, it's Smith's daughter who's playing the milk lady this time. So yeah. That's how the movie ends. Dante's life has an unfair life, and he ends up dying at age 50. This is how the whole trilogy ends. Thank you for making the ending of Clerks 2 pointless. Seriously, this movie, the You Ask Universe had an ending already. It was called this. That's where they should have stopped. It was a beautiful ending. Dante and Randall actually finally had a happy ending. There. No, we gotta be like Alien 3, and we gotta ruin all of that because every happy ending needs to be ruined in this era. Because Hollywood does not know when to stop milking a franchise. Honestly. Then again, this movie was doomed since it was purely a Fathom Events film and not a wide release, but God, they couldn't even try to make this a worthy film and give me a bit of hope for Smith's career after so many modern stinkers like Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Cop-Outs, and apparently Tusk, and quite a few other bad movies he did after Clerks 2. Zack and Miri Make a Porno was okay. It was there. Not even nearly memorable, but it was just there. It had some fine moments. That's all it's worth. Sadly, this movie did not do that. And this was the nail in the coffin to Kevin Smith films and You Ask Universe for me. So, my final recommendation, guys, with the exception of some good performances from Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson, and some occasional laughs in the first bit, Clerks 3 is not a good end to the trilogy. And I recommend you, and if you want to watch Clerks, If You Ask Universe, I recommend you stop watching If You Ask Universe at Clerks 2. Because, and just pretend that is how it ends. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pretend Clerks 2 ends If You Ask Universe, and Clerks 3 and Jane Silent Bob Reboot do not exist. Anyway, that's it for my review of Clerks 3. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Clerks 3, here is how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see Dante and Randall again after 15 years of absences, I'm sorry, but I would strongly avoid this movie and just go rewatch 1 and 2 for your own sake, because this movie is basically another Alien 3 for comedy films, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Clerks 3, I'm going to give Clerks 3 a 5 out of 10. There we go. That's it for my, rant for Clerks 3. And, I guess if you really do want to watch this film somehow, or too curious to know how this film goes, then I guess you can just wait for the streaming release, because it's going to be hitting streaming October 14th, so you just have to wait till October 14th for the movie to hit Amazon Prime, basically. Or hit DVD shelves in December. yeah, it's hitting DVD this December. So, but you can just wait till you can just wait for the streaming for Amazon Prime on October 14th. So you just have to wait till then. If you really want to see how this movie goes so bad. But until then, that'll be it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.